Hey, everybody, it's Deanna Fenton here, and I want to welcome you to this week's Simple Steps to Online Success. I just have to tell you, I had my kitten walking across my desk, and I wasn't sure she was just going to leave me alone before I went live, but here I am. So I want to welcome you to this week's episode. It's going to be, again, a little bit different than what I normally do, and that's because I consistently see very similar questions going on in the Kajabi group, in other Facebook groups, that people are very confused about what kind of support they actually need to create their digital products. Let's just say their business, their digital product business. And when I say create, that encompasses a lot of things. That includes deciding what you're going to create, building an audience. It can be actually creating the product. It can be, most importantly, the messaging and the marketing, and then, of course, launching. There's a lot of steps. And we have to be honest, we're not all skilled at doing all the things. So it's probably the most helpful thing is to go into it, as they like to say, with the beginner's mind, and understand you're not going to necessarily know every single thing that needs to be done. So where do you decide on hiring versus doing it yourself? And there are a lot of factors that are involved in making those kinds of decisions. And let's be honest, it always comes down to my two favorite topics, which is time and money, right? Because if you're going to hire it out, it's going to probably cost you a lot of money. So it really is in your best interest to learn as much as possible about all of these different steps so that when you're ready, you can hire smart. And I'm going to explain why that is so important. So I just talked about, the idea is there are a lot of moving parts. And I'm going to really focus mostly on the marketing. Although even before the marketing, you better be building an audience and building that base of potential clients, potential students, members, coaching clients, whatever it is that you're selling, you need people. So when we're talking about this, and this is the number one, absolutely the number one problem that I see, is when people decide that they're going to create a digital course, a membership, coaching program, whatever, is they jump into the creation process. And then they flounder after that, and they don't quite know what to do. And time again, I see people posting that they have launched to crickets, and they just don't understand why. And that's because before you expend all of that effort to create a product or a program, you need to be able to have a strategy. Because if you don't have a strategy, it literally is like jumping in your car and just driving without a map. You don't know where you're going to end up. And, I love to quote Stephen Covey all the time, is you have to begin with the end in mind, but you have to build the strategy on how you're going to get there. So probably the most important aspect and role is a strategist. Now, those, because of the skill level and the experience, those people can be super expensive. Not going to lie. But it also doesn't end there, because the strategist is going to tell you, well, you need good messaging. Are they going to help with that? Maybe, maybe not. They're going to tell you you need traffic. Is that part of their service? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It's people, and we're always told to niche down, right? So you're going to find there are strategists. There's going to be a launch strategist. They're not necessarily going to tell you how to build an audience. There's a traffic strategist. They're going to be focused on paid traffic, because organic traffic is the long game. Organic traffic is fantastic, and that's pretty much what many of us can only afford to do starting out. And that means, social media, podcasts, video shows, getting on other people's podcasts and video shows. It's not paying for ads and paying to the almighty Facebook or Instagram to get in front of our ideal audiences. So they're going to tell you, you need good messaging and you need good copy. Are they going to do that? Not always. So that brings another person into the mix. And then when you're ready to launch, you need launch support. Now, launch strategists can be different than developing a product. So they're just focused on your paid traffic, your messaging, getting the launch going. So you're starting to see this. I mean, and I know, please don't be overwhelmed, because this can get very overwhelming, I know. Sometimes you need a designer and a coder. And I have to be honest with you, I see way too many people worrying about this when they should be worrying about their message and their traffic. Because I know a lot of us associate, it's got to be pretty, it's got to be beautiful. You have a certain design aesthetic that is very important to you. But the truth is, just because it's important to you doesn't necessarily mean it's important to your ideal audience, because they might not care. They just care, can you solve their problem? Can you help them accomplish what they need to accomplish? And so many times people in the Kajabi group are asking, I need a coder to make this little simple tweak. And it's like, is that going to make you any money? Really? There are people who have made $1 million on Kajabi just the way it is, without custom coding. And I'll be the first to tell you right now, of course, this is not necessarily something you can do yourself. I mean, I think you can be your own designer, and you can make something serviceable and focus on it, and not worry about it being super pretty or look like Amy Porterfield's sales page. But, the coding, I grant you, the coding may not be yours. So when I'm talking about all of these different roles, and your head's already exploding, because, the reality is that's a lot of people to pay. I'm just going to say, let's focus on what's the most important. Oops, sorry, I just screwed up. So I know so many of you are right now saying, can't I just hire a VA? So let's talk about the role of a VA, because this has become a catch-all term to include anything from somebody that can organize your email and manage your calendar to somebody who's going to manage a launch. That's a wide range of skill set. And not every VA can do all these things. So you have people that expect the VA can manage their calendar, create social media images in Canva, manage a launch, do community support in a Facebook group. I mean, do a whole lot of different skills that maybe they're not going to be the best at everything. And they probably aren't. I mean, they're going to probably have a specific, really, really good niche. But most often, a VA is not a strategist. They are an execution, implementation support. Hugely valuable for you. But they're going to do what you tell them to do. And to try and make them into your strategist is really not doing either of you a service. So before traffic, copywriting, designing, all of that, clarity and your strategy has to come first. And that is super important before you hire anybody. I mean, definitely if you're going to hire VA support to help you execute parts of your business, that's great. And that absolutely can help. But you need the clarity on who you serve, how you help them, and you need to have a message and be able to articulate that clearly. And you need to have a strategy of how you're going to find those people, what you're going to say to them, how you're going to, prove your expertise, and then go follow a lot of those other things that need to happen. And again, before you create a product in Kajabi, you need to have clarity and strategy. And that's where I see most people making the mistake. They may have even had a small audience tell them, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. You should do a course on that. But are these the people that are going to pull out the credit card and buy that course? Or are they helpful people that love you, care about you, and they think because you thought it's a good idea, versus actually testing the waters to see if there's a market for it. So as I told my subscribers this week, I talked about my experience with Pilates. And I know it's going to sound like a weird comparison, but I started out doing it myself. I tried, I learned, I followed videos, YouTube videos, all of the things, right? The Mari Windsor VHS tapes, for those of you that are old enough to remember VHS. And I mean, I could do it. I wasn't necessarily doing it consistently. I wasn't necessarily doing it exactly right. Maybe some days I felt it a little more than others. And what happened was, and I had back surgery, and my surgeon, bless his heart, and believe me, this was now 16 years ago, he said, after my surgery, you should do Pilates. So he sent me to a physical therapist who was also a Pilates instructor, and she was sort of my introduction. But just, physical therapy didn't last very long. I was moved on to VHS tapes and Mari Windsor and learning Pilates. In 2007, though, when I moved up here to El Dorado Hills, I found there was a Pilates studio nearby. So I started working with a certified Pilates instructor in group classes. So she was my coach, right? And I learned so much more. I felt it so much more. And I got better results than I could get on my own. So that's where I want to talk about how can a coach, and I know you're like, is there really such a thing as a Kajabi coach? Yes, there is, because you're looking at one. This is where a coach can help you. And again, my goal for the members in my membership is to give them these things, what I'm about to go over, so that they reach a point that they know what has to be done and they know enough about what needs to be done to hire the right people. Because that's the other problem that I see way too often in the Kajabi group are people that have paid good money to someone who said they could do something for them, only to find out that person didn't know anything about it, or did it wrong, or never delivered. And the number one thing that I've always said is I really don't want to see anybody frantically posting in a group begging for someone's help with Kajabi because they're in the middle of a launch and their VA is nowhere to be found and they need something done and they can't do it. I mean, I even have seen people that had readily admit they hired a VA and then the VA said quit or disappeared or whatever. And that person literally didn't even know how to log into their own account, much less figure out how to schedule an email sequence. So, and I know there are so many, online gurus who are going to tell you you're the CEO and you need to hire all this out. And you don't have to know everything perfectly. You just have to know enough that you can hire in a really smart way. You know what needs to be done. And you also know how you want it done, because I think that's the part of us having our own businesses is we don't necessarily feel we have to know everything, but we also have a specific desire on how we want to be presented, how we want to interact and all of that, those things that are really important to communicate. So what does the coach do with you? They help you find clarity. And again, way before you, you create that course, membership, coaching program, you've got to get clear. Who is it you're trying to help? How do you serve them? What is the transformation, the end result that they're going to get from working with you? What is the problem? This is my absolute favorite, I think. What's the problem that they think they have versus the problem that they really have? So just to share with you that, in my situation, most of the time people who come to me think they have a problem because they're overwhelmed by tech, and Kajabi offers so much, they're completely overwhelmed. But the problem is they don't have the clarity to create the strategy to know what to build in Kajabi. So that brings in the second thing a coach can do for you: help you set your strategy. And this is the broader term. So when I'm saying strategy, that could be everything from audience building, list building, product creation, launch strategy. And yes, so now we're talking about a generalist. We're not talking about a specialist, because the specialists, the specialist can honestly come later and maybe should come later. But you've got to start. You've got to get your feet wet. And much like I talked about last time, about people being confused and people feeling less than because they've tried all these things and they failed. It's very hard for people to understand it takes time. And you've just got to keep putting your one foot in front of the other and grow, because it isn't going to be a hockey stick every time. Like, your sales are not going to go boom immediately. It's more like, oh my gosh, have you ever seen the diagram about the life of an entrepreneur? And it's, a zigzag up and down and up and down and up and down. That's kind of building a digital products business. It's up and down. So strategy and direction, because it's really easy to come up. It's not easy, but you can come up with a strategy, but then it's like what to do first. So you need help finding your direction. What needs to happen first? Then, how are they going to help you execute? What can they do to, once again, help you put one foot in front of the other towards building that email list, using the tools that are available in Kajabi? What are they going to do to help you nurture that audience that you've built out? By creating a regular weekly email to promote your content to your new email list. So all of those steps for execution. And, that's one of the main things that I help people do, because people are all at different stages. And sometimes it's still in the audience building stage. Sometimes it's in beta launch stage, and then it's in full launch stage. So we've got to kind of be able to cover what is the priority. Obviously, in the beginning, help them determine what is the priority and building and working on that. And then, of course, there's being support. There's being able to be their cheerleader, pick them up when they're sad because they launched and the first day there are no sales, when we know that the majority of the sales come on the last day of your launch, right? So somebody to be there and help lift you up through those ups and downs of being an online entrepreneur. So I just wanted to go ahead and cover that to let you know, yes, we all desire that down the line, we're going to build this beautiful team of strategists, and we're going to be the CEO. And as I always hear people say, that they want to focus on, their zone of genius. And you should focus on your zone of genius. That is what you were put on this earth to do. But when you're an entrepreneur, and especially starting out, you got to wear all the hats. And it could be primarily, it's almost always a budgetary decision, because the more specialized, the more expensive it's going to be, because these people, you're paying for expertise and you're paying for their proof that they can generate results for you. So it's also an investment. So let's be honest, it's an investment. But sometimes you're not ready for that big investment. And you just want to be able to start putting your one foot in front of the other in the right direction to build, then expand and hire. So that's really, in my opinion, where a coach comes in. So I also want to say that if you have any questions, if you have experience of working with a coach in any area, because there's coaches in other areas as well. There are Facebook ad coaches. There are, and again, that's very specialized versus somebody that is a bit more of a generalist. Now, I coach on Kajabi, but again, what I find primarily is people come and they're overwhelmed by the tech when the problem is they don't have the roadmap of the strategy of what to build. So not knowing what to do first in Kajabi to build out their dream is really what the challenge is. So if this sounds like you, wrong banner, I would love you to mark your calendars for the week of September 27th, because I am going to be offering a free week of coaching to be able to help any of you that are looking for the clarity, the strategy, the direction, and importantly, the Kajabi execution to understand what it's like to actually work effectively and successfully in Kajabi and build that digital product or program. So we are going to have what I'm calling Coaching Week. It's not a challenge, although there'll be things for you to do, believe me. And I'm opening up the doors to my membership so that you can experience exactly what my members get every single week. Our Q&As, our training, our co-working. That one's going to be kind of hard to share with you, but we'll talk about it. And all of the things that help them develop the clarity and strategy to be able to execute what they need to do in Kajabi. Now, to join us, you can join my free group, Kajabi Kickstart, because all the excitement's going to happen in there. And if you're intrigued by the idea of a coaching week, because it's a little different than a challenge, you're also going to get access to all of the things. I'm going to share with you all the things that I'm doing behind the scenes to create Coaching Week. And that's going to include everything from my Facebook strategy, my ad strategy, my traffic strategies, my opt-ins, email sequences, building all of this in Kajabi. So I'm going to share that with you as well in Coaching Week. So you can just go to Facebook and type in Kajabi Kickstart and join me there. And it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be great. I'm going to have some of my members participate. So they're going to share with you, their experiences, how they were like you. I am sure that all of you have experienced that sense of overwhelm and wondering, what do I do first? So we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to share with you ideas, the training to get you started in the right direction. I'm going to share with you some of my best strategies to help cut that frustration and overwhelm when dealing with Kajabi. So if you are watching on the replay, I would love if you would just give me a hashtag replay. Any questions at all that you have that you have about this, join me in the Kajabi Kickstart. You can get in there. You can get settled a little bit. Right now we have over 800 people in that group. And I would love to include you. And you can find out all about Coaching Week, get some of the support that maybe you've been looking for, and get that direction and strategy and help you build that digital product business. Okay, that's it for this week. Short and sweet. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a fantastic rest of the week and a great weekend too. Bye-bye.